The HOA sued me for $200 for fishing in my own lake. Yeah, my lake. That lawsuit almost cost me my home, my marriage, and my sanity. But here's the twist. Their power play backfired so hard that I built something that not only cut off their lake access forever, it destroyed the president's entire life. And if you think that sounds extreme, just wait until you hear what I dug up in my backyard. Act 1. The Spark. It all started on a misty Tuesday morning. I was on the dock at my family's old cabin holding my dad's vintage fishing rod. Fishing wasn't just a hobby, it was how I stayed connected to my parents, both gone now. That lake was my sanctuary, filled with the smell of cedar old leather and a lifetime of memories. Then I heard the sound that made my stomach drop, heels clicking on wood. I didn't even need to turn around. Catherine Perez, our HOA president, was strutting down the dock like she owned the place. Business suit at dawn, phone camera, rolling voice sharp enough to slice steel. "Good morning, Brandon. I'm documenting unauthorized activity on HOA-managed watershed." Unauthorized. I laughed. "Catherine, I've fished here for 4 years. There's no permit requirement." Her smile was colder than the fog lifting off the lake. "You may think that, but county protection is mandatory." That's when I realized this wasn't about the environment. This was about control. Catherine had turned our HOA into her own little dictatorship. She controlled garbage cans, mailbox colors, even what flowers people planted. And now apparently she controlled when I could breathe. Still, I figured it was just another power trip. Until a week later when a certified letter arrived. Fine. Threes, £200. 30 days to pay. Legal threats in bold. My wife Kelly read it and sighed. That woman has way too much time on her hands. But I saw the worry in her eyes. We'd moved here for peace, not war. And now, thanks to Catherine, we were staring at court dates and debt. That night I spread my property deed across the table. My old fence contractor instincts kicked in. I knew boundaries. I knew rights. Catherine thought she could intimidate me into paying. She had no idea she'd just picked a fight with the wrong guy. Act 2. Escalation and betrayal. I wish I could say I marched into battle with total confidence. But truth, I was scared. Days later, my security cameras showed something that shattered me. My neighbor Derek Wilson, the guy I shared beers with, the guy I trusted, was sneaking over to Catherine's house, feeding her info, my schedule, my projects, my private life. I felt sick, betrayed, alone. I actually sat there one night thinking, maybe I should just pay the damn fine. Maybe I was being reckless. Maybe I'd lose everything because I couldn't swallow my pride. That was my lowest point. Ever been so beaten down by someone in power that you start doubting yourself? Drop it in the comments because that's exactly where I was. But then came the twist. I met Tom Garcia, a retired county surveyor. Old school, no nonsense, the kind of man who reads land like scripture. When I told him my story, he smirked. "Son, if you're building fences, let's make them legally bulletproof." Turns out my deed stretched 15 feet further than anyone realized. 15 feet that just happened to cover the so-called community lake access path. Catherine's precious boat launch, she'd been trespassing on my property all along. So I picked up my hammer posts and concrete. Every clang of steel into soil was my battle cry. I wasn't just building a fence, I was drawing a line she couldn't cross. The day she saw the first section go up, her face twisted like she'd bitten glass. Suddenly, her whole empire of fake authority was wobbling. That's when things got nasty. She threatened contempt of court, tried bribing me down to $500, even hired a tree service to accidentally damage my fence. My cameras caught it all. When the workers realized she was asking for vandalism, they backed out and warned me instead. But her scariest move, filing an official lawsuit in small claims court. $3, $200 plus fees. Court date in 30 days. No mediation, no discussion, just legal war. I'll admit my hands shook when I opened that letter. What if she actually won? What if we lost the cabin, my father's tools, my mother's recipes, everything? But then I remembered something. Fear only works when you let someone else define the rules. Catherine had been bluffing for years, and I was about to call her bluff in front of a judge. Act 3. The The showdown. Court day came. Catherine waltzed in power suit, pressed files stacked like weapons. She smirked like she'd already won. But when the judge asked for county authorization of her environmental regulations, Catherine froze. Papers shuffled. Throat cleared. No authorization. None. That was my moment. I laid out Tom's GPS survey, the buried stakes I'd dug up. Stakes Catherine had deliberately hidden to cover the true property lines and proof she'd been collecting thousands in bogus lake fees. The judge leaned back, unimpressed with Catherine's theatrics. This court finds the defendant engaged in systematic deception. Boom. Case closed. Fence legal. Fishing rights mine. Catherine exposed. But she didn't go quietly. At the HOA meeting, after homeowners demanded receipts for their so-called maintenance fees, Catherine snapped, "I built this community? You're all ungrateful." She was screaming, red-faced, veins popping. The dictator mask ripped clean off. Her empire crumbled. Supporters vanished. But instead of retreating, Catherine escalated. One night, my motion sensors went off. I checked the cameras and froze. Catherine in dark clothes carrying bolt cutters. She spent 20 minutes slicing through my fence piece by piece until police sirens pinned her in the spotlight. Arrested on the spot. You'd think that would be the end. But no. Days later, I found gas cans and rags hidden near my fence line. Catherine was planning arson. Not just against me, against the whole neighborhood. The thought made my blood run cold. If I hadn't upgraded to fire-resistant materials, she could have burned down half the block. The final straw came at 3 a.m. Cameras caught her dragging gasoline containers, fumbling with ignition devices. The floodlights snapped on. She froze like a deer in headlights. Police swarmed in minutes. This time it wasn't vandalism. It was felony arson. Catherine Perez, once the untouchable HOA president, was led away in cuffs, her empire of intimidation reduced to ashes she never got to light. Ending beat. That's how my HOA president went from clipboard tyrant to convicted criminal. She tried to control my life with fines, lawsuits, even fire, and lost everything. Sometimes the best way to beat a bully isn't shouting louder. It's knowing your rights, drawing your line, and refusing to step back.